The following video contains spoilers for Life is Strange. Lots and lots of spoilers. You've been warned. Life is all about choice. Coke or Pepsi, Batman or Superman, euthanize your best friend or kill her father. Wait, what? Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that makes statistical analysis of video game trends cool. Well, cooler. And speaking of statistical analysis, today's episode is brought to you by you. Nearly 25,000 of you, in fact. You help provide the data we're using today, which is incredible. Scientists would kill to have that many volunteers for their studies. So in short, you guys rock. Oh, and science? Eat your heart out. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. If you watched GT Live, you may have seen our 10-part series on Life is Strange, which was our most requested game to date. If you're not familiar with the game, here's a link to the archived videos. Enjoy the koala rants. I'll see you in 20 hours. But for those of you who don't want to burn through a day binge watching my mug on the couch, Life is Strange is like a choose-your-own-adventure book with an emo haircut. The game follows a girl named Max who's studying photography at a boarding school in Oregon. Beyond that, you have free will to make all sorts of choices about what Max does, from watering the plant in her dorm room to signing petitions. Super compelling gameplay! But this game is far more than taking Polaroids of things mundane enough to get a filter slapped onto them and posting it on Instagram as art. The twist here is that Max discovers that she has the ability to rewind time and remedy her mistakes, which turns out to be super useful since her best friend Chloe has a real penchant for getting herself killed. Whoops, I shot a car bumper for no reason and the bullet ricocheted and hit me in the gut. Oh no, I was lying on some train tracks and got stuck. Again. Oh gee, I wonder what happens if I try to track down a serial murderer without contacting the police. Criminy, Chloe! Max is constantly splitting the space-time continuum so that you can spit in the face of natural selection. The least you can do is not provoke the gun-toting drug dealer, okay? Oh, and there she goes, getting shot in the bathroom again. Great. As you go, the choices get harder and more intense, to the point that at the end of the game, you're making choices that don't really fit into black and white categories of right and wrong anymore. At the end of each chapter, the game rewards you with a chance to compare your decisions to those made by other players. From, did you steal the money for handicapped children, to, did you prevent your sexually assaulted best friend from jumping off of a building? As an aside, can I just say how emotionally ill-prepared I was to have my video game friend depend on me to talk her down from suicide? That's some really, really serious stuff. Like Tumblr trigger word level serious. Makes me miss the days when the most intense thing that happened in a game was hitting someone with a red shell right before they crossed the finish line. But of all the decisions in the game, it was the final one that really caught my attention. After 19 hours spent reuniting with your best friend Chloe, bonding over late-night pool parties, early morning dance-offs, shared kisses and heart-to-heart conversations, you have to decide whether you want to sacrifice her life. At this point, you've saved her life no less than 5 times, and honestly many, many more if you really sucked at stopping that train. But all of Max's Back to the Futuring hasn't sat well with the rest of the universe. A giant tornado is set to destroy the entire town, and Chloe determines that the only way to save it is for Max to go back in time to let her die the first time she gets shot, thereby setting the timeline on the right path. And that's your last choice of the game. Sacrifice your best friend to save a whole town, or let the town and all the people in it get sucked into a vortex to let your best friend live. The end. So much for a happy ending. More accurate title for this game would have been Life is Emotionally Taxing. Needless to say, in our playthrough, I may have gotten a little choked up. But they were the most manly of tears. Jason was cutting onions, what can I say? Now, according to the endgame statistics covering all the people who played Life is Strange, 53% of people chose to sacrifice Chloe, and 47% chose to sacrifice the town. It's just barely above a coin flip. But I was curious, was there something about a gamer's personality type that would help decide what they would choose in the final moments of sacrifice? And going a level deeper, were you guys, the Theorist family, more likely to skew one way or the other? So I ran a test, and the answer was a resounding yes. It turns out that theorists might have a lot more in common than just going bananas over FNAF. Across the 25,000 responses you sent in, more than 72% of you said that you would sacrifice Chloe to save the town. That's a huge difference from the 50-50 split you see in the game. And so the obvious follow-up question is, why are we seeing this? Why are our results so much different than the rest of the gaming community? So I dug deeper into the data. The trend held across gender as well. Females who took the survey opted to sacrifice Chloe a little over 75% of the time, while men did so 71% of the time. And then what about age or nationality? Well, though we've been unable to pull many people in their 50s and 60s from the crack-like high of Farmville, the channel's viewers are from a diverse age range and heritage, so that didn't really seem to be a huge factor here either. So then, what is it? Why would a theorist be so eager to axe their best friend while the general gaming populace is so split on the decision? And that's where the last question of the survey came into play. While there aren't tons of philosophers pondering the implications of gamer choice in Life is Strange, this kind of question has been around for a long time in the study of ethics. In 1967, British philosopher Philippa Foot posed a thought experiment known as the trolley problem. It goes like this. A trolley is running down a track toward 5 workers, and the workers can't get out of the way fast enough. However, there's a switch that would send the trolley down an alternate track where it would hit only 1 worker. In this situation, do you pull the switch? Would you? Would you do it? Because in studies, about 90% of regular people say that they would. This decision is classified under the ethical philosophy of act utilitarianism, in which the right action to take is the one that maximizes the well-being for all people. It's basically a math problem. If someone has to die, it's more valuable to save 5 people than to save 1. And honestly, that's likely what leads many of us to sacrifice Chloe and save Arcadia Bay. We hold the value of hundreds of lives in higher regard than we hold a single life. It's like, will you press the button all over again? But obviously, that's not the whole story. In the trolley problem, there's no distinction between the 2 groups of workers beyond how many of them there are. But Life is Strange adds the wrinkle that the one person we'd have to kill is our best friend. And that makes a huge difference. In another variation of the trolley problem, the train is still going down the track toward the 5 people, but it can be stopped if you push an overweight person standing next to you onto the track. I kid you not, this is a legitimate ethical question philosophers debate. Clearly they have too much time on their hands. Now in this scenario, it's a fat person. In this scenario, it's 20 puppies. And in this scenario, it's an oversized Fig Newton. Slow clap, philosophy. Slow clap. Anyway, the utilitarian math of this new version is exactly the same as before. 1 person sacrificed to save 5. But people respond to this version of events very differently. In fact, the majority of people say that they wouldn't shove the man onto the tracks. In other words, that one change of having them push the person onto the track changed answers from 90% stopping the train to less than 50%. And if you think about it, the same holds true in Life is Strange, where you, as the player, have to physically choose to rewind time as Max to set the course of events back to what they originally were. But why does this cause such a huge change? Well, a researcher named Joshua Green used fMRI readings to measure the brain activity in subjects presented with both problems. Whereas the fMRI showed a lot more activity in the rational parts of the brain when you can just pull the switch, killing in a less personal fashion. In the second scenario, with you physically doing the pushing onto the tracks, it's the limbic system that lights up, the part of the brain that revolves around emotional response, since you're in a situation where you physically have to do the killing yourself. This response is known as rule utilitarianism, the idea that following an established set of ethical rules, regardless of the situation, is the right solution. In this case, the ethical rule is don't push people in front of moving trains. Very good advice, I find. Not from past experience or anything. Going back to Life is Strange, the people who argue for saving Chloe are more likely to be rule utilitarians. They're most likely operating under the concept that a person should do anything possible to avoid harming their loved ones. Okay, so that's all pretty logical, but then why would theorists be so much more likely to sacrifice Chloe? It turns out that we theorists are not like the population at large. Of course, everyone knew that about me the first time I wore a lime green suit in public, but it's nice to have your company out there on the fringe. As the final question of the survey, I asked people to quickly take the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, which classifies you into one of 16 different personality categories based on a 4-letter code. This thing is an incredibly accurate test that if you've never taken it before, you absolutely should. I'm including a link in the description for you. It takes like 10 minutes tops. People around the world swear by this thing, including a lot of top companies who get their employees to take it so they better understand their working style. It's very cool. Anyway, the categories break you down as follows. Number 1, are you quiet and introverted or an extroverted people person? Number 2, do you prefer using your senses to get hands-on experience with a situation, or do you prefer looking for patterns in the data through intuition? Number 3, do you make decisions by thinking about the situation or feeling what the right thing to do is? And finally, do you enjoy planning and order in your life, classified as judging, or would you rather keep yourself fluid and flexible, classified as perceiving? Take one from each of those pairs of letters and you have yourself your Myers-Briggs personality type. And here's where the Theorist data gets really interesting. When you look at global data, the first, third, and fourth letters all tend to have a 50-50 split. For instance, on the whole, 50% of people are introverts, staying at home and playing a video game, while the other 50% are extroverts, going to parties and doing things that people do at parties. I can only assume playing raucous games of competitive chess. But it's that second letter, sensing versus intuiting, where there's a huge split. 70% of the world's population are sensors. They prefer reality, the information that's right there in front of them, in their face. The other 30% are intuitors, people who look at examples of past behavior and discover patterns out of that data. They don't like thinking about the past so much as they like speculating towards the future. And yet, when I looked at the Theorist data, your numbers, it was reversed. 77% of you were intuitive and 23% were sensing. The exact opposite of what the global population is. And while that may seem crazy, it makes a ton of sense. Look at the show you're choosing to watch. Sensors are the people most likely to get mad at me for making this show, for applying science and math and logic to video games, because the concrete fact is, they're just video games. Sensors are the people who are going to see Mario as a hero because his games say he's a hero. He rescues the princess. It's concrete evidence right there in front of your face. It's real. But intuitors aren't afraid to speculate. They see past instances of Mario's bad behavior and draw a pattern. Mario is mental. Even though he may not be, and even though a lot of the hard evidence might say otherwise, we intuitors get joy out of just speculating about that sort of thing. It's funny, actually. When I take this test, I tend to split introvert and extrovert, as well as feeling versus thinking. It's weird, I'm splitting like 4 different personality types. But I am heavy into the other 2 categories, and especially into the N category. It even goes beyond the show. When I'm not writing scripts, I'm looking at data to help out other YouTubers, trying to find patterns in their traffic sources and predict the future of where things are going. But now look at our results with Life is Strange. People who are more N than S are likely to derive meaning from patterns they've seen before and are more likely to consider the future when making decisions. And when you're making the decision about whether to save or sacrifice Chloe, those 2 factors are gonna push you in a certain direction. Sacrificing Chloe. The player, like Max, has seen the pattern that Chloe is basically a Final Destination victim. She's been destined to die the whole game, from Nathan shooting her, to Frank shooting her, to Chloe shooting herself. Then there's the train and Mr. Jefferson. People under the intuitive spectrum are going to give a lot more weight to that pattern than those who are in the sensing spectrum, who are going to be much more interested in the past and your emotional history and long friendship with her. The decision to sacrifice Chloe is also all about the future. Obviously, Max has a richer past with Chloe than she does with any other person in Arcadia Bay, but those who lean more intuitive find a way to look past that and consider the possible outcomes for lots of people, not just themselves and the people that they're close to. Isn't that cool? And it doesn't stop there. What else makes Theorists different? The most frequent 4-letter combination to show up was INFP, introverted, intuitive, feeling, and perceiving. In fact, this personality type, nicknamed the Mediator, was more than 4 times as popular as the average personality type. According to the description for mediators, INFPs, quote, combine their intuitive nature with their open-mindedness to allow them to see things from unconventional perspectives, and are, quote, able to connect far-flung dots into a single theme. Sound familiar? Together, we've spent the last 5 years connecting disparate dots, trying to bring new perspectives to games by seeing if we can prove that Link is dead or Sonic is slow, Peach is a maniac, or Minecraft creepers are explosive moss monsters. It should come as no surprise that Theorists are the same way. In the list of fictional INFPs, one of the most famous is Fox Mulder from the show The X-Files. You know, the guy who says, the truth is out there. You're not gonna find a much better Theorist prototype than that guy. I mean, I don't want to get too kumbaya with this, but what's brought so many of us together on this channel isn't just that we love video games. It's that we approach the world with the same creativity, the same desire to find meaning in unlikely places. So even when we're faced with an impossible choice, the life of our best friend versus the lives of innocent strangers, we consider the same angles and by a pretty solid margin make the same decisions. And that, when you think about it, is pretty darn cool. That by the power and magic of the internet, we were all able to find each other, united by the way that we think without even realizing it. And now, we're 6 million strong. It's pretty awesome. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And before you go, click the link in the description or this new annotation that works on both desktop and mobile to check out my collaboration with Sam and Nico from Corridor Digital. If you're not familiar with their channel, these are guys I've wanted to do something with forever. These two guys are some of the best video game inspired virtual effects artists on YouTube. So I'm super excited about this video. I think you're gonna really dig it. It's a video that was done in partnership with the game Battleborn, which if you've never heard of it is like Borderlands and Team Fortress 2 had a hyperactive baby where you can play as everything from a vampire to a penguin in a mech suit. And the coolest news of all is that the game is out right now, today. It's almost like we planned it that way. Huh. If you can't tell already, it has the awesome sense of humor that games like Tales from Borderlands has. Something that Corridor Digital is mimicking in their video. You're pretty hot right now. I mean, I don't need a thermal camera to be able to tell that one though. Oh! Anyway, please click over and check it out. It'll be 3 minutes of your life well spent, and honestly, I want them to like me and think I'm cool, so I want to win their friendship through clicks. So by clicking over, not only are you seeing a very cool video, but you're helping me get more friends. Friendship is nice, even if you have to bribe them to do so. See you next week!